Contrast uncut, yeah, you know that's us. Where we only speak the real and the real rock with us. Where we motivate the people and politic on success. Oh no, we ain't DJ Khaled, but they swearing we the best.
What's happening? It's Contrast Uncut. It's season 5. It's episode 33. I want to give a big shout out to Uncle Snoop's Army and Bobby D Presents. I appreciate you, brothers. It's your host, Xylo. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have an incredibly dope special guest. She's on the line from LA, and she's a digital producer and entertainment reporter from Fox Soul's Hollywood Unlocked, a show that my wife is hooked to, and I gradually look forward to watching it and getting the scoop and the perspective from Jason Lee and the rest of the cast. And it's just been a show that I've gradually just began to love and enjoy watching with my wife. And I just was like, okay, I need to find a way to have a source to get a good body on here and represent it and tell a great story of how she got into that position. And if you ain't know who I got on the show by now, it's all good. We get all episode to chop it up with ALEXYZ. JOI, everybody. How you doing, Queen?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I can't complain. You know, it's Hump Day Wednesday. It's been a wild day.
Yes.
Traffic. My boy Blue broke his camera yesterday. We're trying to get it fixed today.
Broken cameras are no fun.
When we shoot a lot of videos, and we did this free little promotion thing for local artists to do a cipher, and then the camera tilted over on the tripod, and boom, broke the camera, and it's catastrophic.
Yeah, cameras ain't cheap. Cameras definitely are not cheap. I know the pain.
But yeah, I gotta tell you, from the jump, time's the most finite thing we have on this earth. I appreciate you rocking with me, rocking with the viewers and the listeners. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited for this.
Absolutely. So I gotta know, speaking of time, ALEXYZ, what's a normal 24 hours for you?
Oh my goodness. Normal 24 hours is literally on my phone, looking at trending stories, trending topics, going through Instagram, any platform, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, looking at honestly other sites, other websites, other platforms, seeing what's going on, what's happening in the news. For me, of course, alongside working with Jason, I do also other stuff with Hollywood Unlocked. So daily, it's a matter of recording, script writing, editing, producing. It's a long day.
You know, I love to ask that question because a lot of people like to talk a lot of crap from the couch, but not understand what it takes to be on the screen, to see a final product, just to see a product. There's so much work goes into it. And a lot of people think that they could just do it in a blink of an eye, but it's so much work that goes into just an hour-and-a-half segment.
Literally a little 3-minute segment, like something that's a small. I do every other day I switch out different segments. So one segment is called What's Trending, that talks about 3 quick stories in like a minute or so. Another one is Now You Know, which gives an in-depth look at like one trending topic that everybody's talking about. Those range anywhere between 3 to like 7 minutes to research, write, edit, record, get assets, get pictures. That can go anywhere from maybe an hour, depending on the knowledge that I have of the story, to somewhere between 2-3 hours. And it ends up being a 3-minute clip.
You know what's really cool is the fact that you take something that everybody does on their own just to be nosy, just to be in other people's business, and you found a way to break it and write it a different way. You found a different way to present it. And, you know, it's a great spin to the good story. And that's really dope because there's so many people that fumble that opportunity.
Oh, yeah. And it's honestly, I mean, for me, I've been doing journalism since high school. So my sophomore, junior year of high school, I was fortunate enough to go to a school that had a journalism program. So it was like a jump start of like learning how to edit, learning how to like find a story, learning how to, of course, record, do everything on my own. So looking at that, it's like, dang, that really prepared me from high school. And they say high school, you know, just fun. Nah, high school helped me for my life.
So what high school we shouting out for preparing you? Because my high school, I love them, but when I got to college, I had a rude awakening.
Oh no, I went to Claremont High School, which is in Claremont, California. The only public high school in Claremont.
You know, the IE, shout
Yes.
out, salute. Okay. So Alexis, I have a quote. Let me know how this quote relates to you, or if it doesn't, the ideas I want you to talk about it.
Okay.
There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. Maya Angelou.
Can you repeat that one more time?
I got you. I'll slow it down too. There's no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you. Maya Angelou.
I think for me, like hearing that, burying an untold story, for me, I like to tell stories. I like to learn stories, I like to know stories. So if there's, granted right now, I of course work in entertainment, but from my training of covering all types of stories, from of course going to school in Tucson where there's not entertainment and having to find a story or find somebody to tell their story. For me, it's like if I'm burying a story just because I don't think it's gonna hit right, or I don't think that people are gonna receive it, it's gonna hurt me, and it's gonna hurt that person who might need to hear that story by me not telling it.
So there's a due diligence to that. You're almost like a mandated reporter when it comes to something that's going to really change, you know, the perspective, or just, you know, change things that need to be changed. That's, you know, looked at and needs to be right.
Yeah, and I think, you know, every story, no matter how big or small, whoever's telling it thinks it is, that we never know who's on the other receiving end of that story. Somebody might, it can be a simple story as a homeless person who found a dog, and now that dog is their lifeline. That's a story that sticks out that actually somebody covered when I was in college. But somebody listening to that story who's also in that same predicament, whether it's homeless or not, might be like, I needed to hear that because now I can find peace in me having a dog, and that's going to be my safe line. While it could have been a small story just for entertainment purposes, or just for, you know, trying to fill the time, that story then resonates with somebody who needed to hear that at that point in time.
So from all the stories that you've been blessed to be able to tell, and I'm talking about journalism and media, do you feel like the game chose you, or did you choose the game?
I feel like it's a mixture of both, honestly. Kind of reaching back to when I got started, I started off doing music at school, I was the music beat reporter. So of course in high school, that just is like orchestra and band. And I was like, this ain't really what I want to do, but if I have to do it, I'll do it. But then transitioning out of high school into college, I was like, oh, you know, I want to be on an ABC 7, which is of course like a primetime news network in California, or a KTLA, something telling local news. Once I got to the end of my college career of my BA, I was like, oh, you know, I'll still do local news. It wasn't until I did my master's and came back to California that I was like, you know, I think I want to do entertainment. And it just so happened that in my master's class, it was a communications class. Taking that class, a girl sitting next to me was always on her phone. And I was like, what is she, like, she's always on her phone. What is she doing? So one day I was just like, what do you do? Like, what are you doing? She's like, oh, well, I work for this company called Hollywood Unlocked. And I was like, okay, y'all hiring? And the rest was history. That was six years ago. So it's like being in that position. I mean, granted, that class was a small class. There were people who were doing entertainment, and there were also people who were doing local news. So that's why I say it's a mixture of both, because I'm a firm believer of a closed mouth doesn't get fed. Had I sat there and just watched her do what she did on her phone, that would have changed the course of my entire life. I would never have been introduced to entertainment. I never would have thought like, oh yeah, you know, entertainment is for me. So it's like, yes, I chose it because of course coming to California, that's all you're surrounded by is entertainment, celebrities and stuff like that. But I didn't take the initiative to really put myself into it until that girl was like, this is what I do. Let me share with you what I do. So it's like a mixture of both.
You know, what's really dope is that you allowed your general interest in what you do, and then you allowed your research and your, you know, the skill that no one can take away from you, your knowledge built up. And that was your superpower. And then you found an ability to tie the two. And you're absolutely right. Closed mouths will never be fed. They'll stay hungry forever unless you do something about it. because sometimes God does something great and he says, this is
Mm-hmm.
for you and only you. And if you mix
Yeah,
something for you, it doesn't work out. But if you stick it out and go through the course of it, you'll arrive at what you're supposed to be.
absolutely. And I think for the course of my career, honestly, God has put me in the right place at the right time. Because alongside doing, of course, starting off with Hollywood Unlocked as an intern, one day randomly going to get my hair done at a salon I had never been to before, never had met this lady before. I go in and she's doing this girl's hair and they're talking about she's graduating, she goes to USC. And I was like, oh, you know what is your degree? And she was like, journalism. It's like, oh my gosh, me too. Like, I study journalism. Like, what do you do? She says, oh, well, I'm an intern at Power 106. I said, oh, wow, that's really cool. Like, I applied there. She was like, what's your information? I'll send in your give me your information. I'll text my manager, who at that time was the producer, and I'll ask if I can forward your or give you his information. No more than a couple hours later, she texts me, gives me his information. I send him my resume. The next day I had an interview. A couple days later, I had the position as an intern. Interned with them for about a year and a half. After that year and a half, they hired me on as their social media writer. So it's like God knows what he's doing, putting me in these random situations to be able to jumpstart my career. And that I didn't even have a passion in music at that time. I was just like, I just want to do something. But then once I got into Power 106, I was like, this is like full circle, starting off not really wanting to do orchestra and band as a reporter in high school. And now here I am interning and writing for one of the hottest stations in LA because I met a girl at the hair salon. Like, it's crazy. Like, telling it now, it's just so crazy to me how just opening my mouth and asking and just conversation has changed everything. And it's not even like we were at a place where, you know, we're networking at these random locations at school and at a hair salon.
Oh, you know, you were able to read and you know, digest to what something that was meant for you. And then the most beautiful thing is that you didn't make a U-turn midway and was like, it's just an internship. It's just this. It's just that. You never allow that to be what stopped you. Instead, you allowed it to propel you and to show us what makes you better than others. And, you know, you arrive. And then, you know, the greatness of entertainment is there's so much activity, so much movement that you can take off again and begin another thing and keep other things in motion. You know, compartmentalizing is a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I feel it's always somebody that invests in an idea or puts someone in a position to reach their dreams. Who do we owe you the thank you for investing into your sleepless dream?
First things first, of course, my mother. My mother and my grandmother, they have always been extremely, extremely supportive of everything that I do. Never were those type of parents, and my grandmother to be like, I don't know, maybe let's try this instead of this. They have literally been my number one supporters from day one. Whatever I wanted to do, they were like, okay, do it. Whatever you need to figure out, whatever you need to get, we'll help you get it. We'll help you make sure that you're doing it right. I mean, right now I'm at my grandmother's house and I have a whole studio built up in just a spare room, like, because I'm working from home this week. So it's like to take up like room in the house, just like they're literally like, whatever you need to do, let's do it. They'll support me. They'll share it with their friends and their friends who come up to me and I'm like, I don't know who you are, but hi. They're literally like the main reason that I continue to do what I do. But also I would say my high school counselor, going into sophomore year, which was like second semester, towards the end of the year of sophomore year, I was like, I don't know what I want to do in college. I know I want to go to college and I know I need to go to college, but what I want to do, that I don't know. So I was always like, my elective, I'll be a teacher's assistant. Like, I'll just do that. And towards the end of sophomore year, she was like, Alexis, what you're not going to do is be a teacher's assistant another semester. I was like, why? Like, it's good. She was like, no, I'm going to put you in this journalism class. It was called Wolfcast. I'm going to put you in this journalism class and you're going to love it. And I was like, okay. At that point, I was like, I never sat and recorded in front of a camera. I never wrote a news story. I watched the news because, like, growing up, my grandmother, before she would take us to school, would always play the news. It's just like, you know who these news anchors are. So I knew the news. I just never was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So she put me in that class. She was like, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to love it, and you're going to stick to it. And to this day, like, every time I go back, I'm like, you're the reason why I'm in the career path that I'm in. Because my high school counselor cared that much about me to make sure that, like, I wasn't just going to not do anything. She was going to make sure that I excelled. And I think that that's a blessing in itself, to be able to have somebody outside of your family, somebody who sees you on a consistent basis, like a counselor, knows your grades, knows what, you do in class, to tell you you're gonna take this and you have no say in it and you're gonna love it.
I love that you received the blessing. You didn't block her blessing by blocking what she was trying to put you in. Because a lot of the times people see things in other people that they may not see in themselves. And they take it as a discouraging moment, as like, they're trying to hate on me for what I want to do, or they're trying to stop me from my progress or success. And the reality is that they see something in you that can grow more than you see in yourself. And they'd rather tell you it now than wait till you're 30 and, you're trying to do stuff like start a podcast.
Yeah, literally. Because had I said no, I'm like, I still to this day don't know what my backup plan would have been, what I would have studied in college. I just, general education. I mean, granted, I got to see my mother go through, of course, her master's, her bachelor's, her PhD while I was still in school myself. So I had that example of what it meant to go to school and get a degree and be successful from watching her. But I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I'll be a cake decorator. I'll be a wedding planner. Like, I vividly remember just thinking those random things, like, what is a wedding planner for what? Now I hate planning events. Like, I can't stand it. I don't want to plan. Don't ask me to plan nothing, because I'm not gonna know where to start. So it's had I been like, no, I'm not gonna do it, and no, I'm just gonna have a sore attitude about it, it could have been a different route. Plus, not to mention, I think it's really important for, of course, going to a school like Claremont, where it's a predominantly white school. So, of course, Black was a minority. There was not that many of us. We all knew each other. My counselor was also Black. So for me to have somebody like that, I always think of it like, had my counselor not been a Black woman, had they been like, you need to take this class because I want you to be in here, I always think about that. So just to have somebody like that and be fortunate enough to go to a school where my counselor was Black and 2 out of the 6 counselors were Black, it's just like, gosh, that's such a blessing, because a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people don't have that opportunity to rely on their counselor to guide them. That's what they're there for.
A lot of the stereotypical like statistics, they're all predominantly done on a white, racial base. Like, it's not necessarily someone's taking the time to do stuff about other cultures. They're doing things, and I feel like it's more negligence than them being naive. But that's just a perspective I take on it, because there's so much when you go to mental health, when you go to how people's nutrition, to certain things that are just geographically or autonomy different, and from those perceptions they don't take account for it, and it's a sad situation. I feel like it's negligence a lot of the time, but there's moments where God sends you people where you're able to relate to and receive it, and they're able to be a vessel in people's lives and encourage the future ways, and then they're able to use your testimony as she took her path, and then that's a great thing. I want to know the roller coaster, because everyone is sweet. We're talking about the highlight reel, but I do want to know some the highs and the lows, because as gratitude as it is, when you get to the highs, it's a great view, but as we all know, in the entertainment world, there is lows. There's times where the train goes down below, and it gets your stomach, it gets everything, but you build yourself back up to climb back up and keep on going. And so go ahead, let us know.
Yeah, I think for a high, which despite being in the industry as long as I've been, the high came last year. As shocking as it sounds, during a time where people were not working, people were losing their jobs, people were, having to find a new course of action of what they were going to do with their life. For me, despite being paid from Hollywood Unlocked per you know, different things that I did and still kind of getting some money. It wasn't until literally July of 2020 that I was brought on full time to be able to receive, you know, a consistent salary, to be able to do something on a consistent basis, to be able to do what I want to do daily, as opposed to just covering these events and loving that. But now I get to do it 24/7. So I would say that that's been the high. This last year has just been like an extreme, just like high of emotions, of just people I've met, people I've connected with, people who know me. And I'm like, hearing people come, of course, message me like, hey, can I just talk to you about your journey? And in my head, I was actually having this conversation earlier with one of my friends of like, I feel like I'm still learning. So the fact that people are coming to me to ask, you know, can we just talk about your journey? Can we just talk about, you know, I want to do what you're doing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like some of these people, I want to do what you're doing, but like, let's talk about it. So I think that the 2020 and 2021 have honestly been my biggest high of my career. Now going to the lows, initially I didn't start off doing on camera with Hollywood Unlocked. I was strictly writing. One of the biggest stories that we broke, I didn't write the initial story, but the company broke it as a whole, was the Tristan Thompson, Jordan Woods, Khloe Kardashian scandal. Hollywood Unlocked broke that. And so in the follow-up stories of course, whoever finds whatever more information that needs to be published, in writing those, the lows come when you're now all of a sudden the target of, you're the reason why he cheated. You're the girl that he cheated with, because our names are tagged on Instagram. The constant DMs of any story, not just the Khloe Kardashian, Tristan Thompson, Jordan Woods story, any random story, you now become the target if people don't like what you're saying. So to be able to block, at first I was terrible at it. I used to DM people like, what are you talking about? I wrote the story. You don't see it says writer, yada, yada, yada. I'm not the one who shot this person. I'm not the cheater. Like going back and forth with these people. And I think once I got to like a point where I was just like, I can't argue with these people. Why am I arguing? That I think took the longest to really understand, because it hurts. It definitely hurts. And even, you know, venturing in from middle of last year, starting these different new segments that the Hollywood Unlocked fan base has never seen, getting the criticism of, who is this? Where is Jason? Oh, her voice sounds like this. Why she got on that? Ooh, look at her hair. That's a low, and it hurts. But you have to get to a point where you block it out. And I think that's the thing, regardless of if you're in entertainment, regardless of if you're in regular news, regardless of whatever you're in, that is a low and it hurts, but how you overcome it is the most important. Because you can sit and dwell on it and you can sit and continue to respond to these trolls. But once you get an upper hand of like, you're going to say what you say, but at the end of the day, you're watching. At the end of the day, you're supporting. At the end of the day, your comment is now feeding into these views and these different analytics that are positive when you try to be negative. It's hard, but
no, that's exactly what I wanted to add it into, and you segued it. You made two negatives into a positive. You know, it's your job to cover the story, whatever it is. All publicity is publicity. Activity is activity. People hope and pray for activity for analytics and to get their algorithm up. So to get that interaction is a blessing. But where it hurts is that people are giving their honest truths about something that has nothing to do with them.
Yep.
And that part is like, okay, well, if I take the time to allow it to get to me, then, you know, it deserves to get to me. But if I allow it to be like, hey, they're doing all this because of what I'm doing, then it's a blessing, because it's a negative to a negative that made a positive. And then it's how you control the narrative from there.
Yeah. And I think it got to me towards the middle of last year, as the new segments were kind of rolling out, and as, you know, I'm in the background of helping Jason with gagging, and like, of course, they can hear us on his show in the background because we're interacting with him, of course, laughing, and just in the show with him. And it got to a point where like the comments about my voice, it hit me. And I was like, okay, I need to find like some voice lessons. I need to like figure something out, because I remember in college, one of my teachers was like, you sound like a girl. And I was like, but I am a girl. Like I I don't get it. But then listening to and understanding exactly what she was saying is more so in the tone of voice. And it got to me, like them, like Hollywood Unlocked, people who follow Hollywood Unlocked, whether they're trolls or whether they're true supporters, the ones who are the trolls who are like, oh, her voice is like nails on a scratch board, or her voice is so squeaky, or she's yelling, or this and this. It really like, dang, do I need to like deepen my voice? Do I need to slow down? So I became critical of everything that I was doing. And then I got to a point where I was just like, my voice is my voice. I can't change that. I can't change that. I'm not out here talking about, politics where my voice needs to have a certain deepness to it. I'm not out here on, local breaking news talking about tragic stories. I'm out here talking about entertainment. There's no voice that could be used for entertainment because the story's just getting across. The voice doesn't matter. That hurt.
What people get a tradition of doing is talking shit from the couch because they don't sound like you. And because they don't sound like you and you have a distinctive voice, it bothers them. And it's like, how come I'm not hearing this or hearing that? And it's like, obviously they want a different sound to break in what's being told. A different tone is always something that is eclectic and psychological to processing. And something that's too outward or too deep, it doesn't sit the same way, versus you have something eclectically told and it's received. It's like, boom, it hits you in the face and it's stuck there. And that's our job as media journalists, is to get information that sticks, not something that's gonna fall off your face and not go anywhere.
And I think having a recognizable voice, I think, is more important than having a voice that's like, who is that? Because I've had friends, like when I was doing, of course, radio, you don't see whose face it is. But when they heard my voice, I would get those, I heard you on the radio. And I'm like, yes, that was me. Like, yes, that was me. That was my voice. Or on a random in the background of a TV show, like, oh, I heard Alexis. Like, yes, that was me. And even myself, I mean, I did an interview last week, and I'm blanking on her name right now, but she started the interview and I was like, she looks different because I last remember seeing her when I was a kid in Living Single, but I know that voice. And sure enough, once I finished the interview, I was like, I knew that was her. So I think for me now, I look at it like, I'd rather have that recognizable voice than a voice that's going to sound like everybody else. That's not going to turn a head. That me talking is not going to be like, I know that's Alexis and I want to go talk to her.
Come on, people don't understand the value of being recognized without you being there. And that makes you a product, that makes you a brand, that makes you something identifiable, and people can relate to that. And everyone's searching for that in today's day and age. That's why influencers are such a big game. And it's important to have the right person that's influenced you, that has a good heart, and is also going to tell you the bitter truth when other people don't want to talk about it.
Right.
So I got to bring it in. It's all about what you're doing right now that prepares you for the future, but it's also about what's next, because what you're doing next is going to keep you going for longevity. Because it's cool what you did yesterday, but tomorrow is a beautiful day. What's next for Alexis?
Honestly, for me, I love Hollywood Unlocked. I'll forever be grateful to Hollywood Unlocked. I won't be with Hollywood Unlocked for forever, of course. So for me, next is really just continuing to develop my talent while I'm still with the company, develop myself as a brand, work on my skills as a journalist. I'm a firm believer you can never know everything about what you're doing. I always want to be a student of the game. I always want to be a student in journalism, no matter even if I get to Oprah status, I still want to be a student of the game, because there's always something that I can perfect. So going next, I just want to continue to perfect my craft, and Lord willing, transition into network cable, go on to still talking about entertainment while I'm still young, and just be able to be on TV in a capacity that's not just, oh, I'm on TV, but be on TV in a capacity that can help change lives, that can help tell stories that haven't been told, that can help inspire somebody to do something that they never thought they would do.
You know, you really showcase the value of knowledge and staying humble, humility to the fact of still learning and growing in your environment. Because if, you know, as we all know, people change every day. You got to know who the person that is next to you every day, because so many different emotions can cause something to have PTSD later on. So, you know, it's important to keep on evolving, progress or practice to progress daily. And I feel that that has a way of overshedding shadows that you want to break and see a, you know, a new shine of day and the new you that you've been trying to see in the mirror. Because foggy mirrors are real, and the best way to get through it is to have a bright day, keep on building that fog out.
Yep.
You know, I gotta know real quick, Snoop Dogg show, you know, he presents Uncle Snoop's Army. I gotta know a Snoop Dogg memory, whether it's your favorite song or you've seen him in person at a show. You know, hit me with a Snoop Dogg memory.
I actually have seen Snoop Dogg quite a few times. One of my favorite, I'd say being at the compound for a screening and just seeing how humble he is, seeing how nice he is, like opening the doors to all these random people to come in your environment and just be so welcoming. And even like when I was younger, of course, he lived in Claremont. So that was like a thing. I don't know how long he lived there, but I know he lived in Claremont. So all of my friends used to be like, yeah, we go to school in Claremont. You know, Snoop Dogg used to live in Claremont. He used to live up the street from our school. But to be able to watch him on Snoop Dogg's Fatherhood, that's like just growing up watching that, singing the theme song with my best friend, like, and just feeling that sense of like, he's so close yet so far, but then growing up to be able to interview him and him be the nicest person ever. It's just, it's crazy. Knowing that up the street from my house, he coached the Pomona Steelers, like, and now I have access to him to be able to speak to him and interview with him and never get any negative vibe and never get any rudeness, just always so gracious and so willing to speak to people and just to help the community.
You know, fun fact, a lot of the, you know, the West Coast rappers in the 90s all moved to Claremont, Nate Dogg included. And it was just an environment that they were able to get away from LA and tuck off and still have a nice fat house and not everybody trip on who your neighbor is.
Very true. I mean, I there were people who lived in Pomona, sugar free. People would always be like, "Oh, you're from Pomona, sugar free," and I'd be like, "I don't know who that is. I'm so sorry. I know I live up the street from Sugar Shane mostly. That's about it." But like, I don't know who that is. I could tell you Snoop Dogg lived in Claremont, but I could tell you he lived in Diamond Bar. But Pomona, I think Pomona, the IE in general, gets a bad rap. It always gets a bad rap. Why? We're so, like, no one knows the IE, and it's such a small, just like, not even small, because IE is fairly big, but it's just such like a different environment than LA.
I got to give you a one quick random, and it's just a shocker, and I promise we're going to close out. You know who's from the IE that was just on, you know, Freshman XXL?
Who?
Blast.
Really?
See, I did it. Successful. Yeah.
Wow.
So like when he was growing up, like we shoot videos for Blast. My good friend, I get to be a production manager. I started off production assistant. I ain't gonna hold it out. Everybody working up, wherever you're doing on sets, enjoy it.
I did the same thing.
Love it. And then you'll continue to work up. And I'm blessed to work with it, created by Blue, and he shoots all a majority of Blast stuff. And I learned that, you know, when he was living out, you know, on the east side of South Central, his mom was like, "Hey, the environment's getting bad. We got jobs so that we can, you know, live in the IE," and that's what they did. And so they moved him out in the nick of time, and you know, the environment still taught him a lot. But that's why he has that real West Coast flavor. But at the same time, he has that, you know, I listen to other things because I grew up in a different environment too. Yeah.
Literally, I think of course there, like you said, there is that West Coast sound, but like the IE has like different sound. It's so different. It's the West Coast mixed with like a little bit of spice from the IE. You can tell the difference between an IE rapper and an LA rapper.
Yes. I
And
mean,
like,
harmony, melodic, like it's a difference.
yeah, it's something different. It's just, we're not at the hustle and bustle out here. No one's in a rush in the IE. And technically, I'm not even in the IE. I'm the edge of LA County and the IE, because Pomona's technically LA County. But it's still like, it's different. Had I grown up in LA, had I grown up, you know, in the Hollywood area, I'd be a different person. I'd be completely different than I am now. I 100% believe that. Had I gone to school in LA, had I gone to school in Hollywood, had I gone to school in the Valley, I wouldn't be the same person that I am going to school in Claremont. Like, these small cities that people look down on. One of the biggest things of going to school in Claremont was like, oh my gosh, Jessica Alba graduated from Claremont High. Jessica Alba graduated from El Roble, which is the middle school in Claremont. It's just, there's so many people that come out of here that no one ever is like, where is the IE? What is Claremont? What is Pomona? Like, it's just so interesting.
Exactly. I want to know, what's your favorite concert you've been to?
Ooh, my favorite concert? I have to say my most recent, which is like, it sounds crazy, but my favorite concert was my Cynthia Erivo concert that I just went to at the Hollywood Bowl. She is one of my favorite singers right now. Her story is amazing. She has a genuine soul. I think that was where I felt, well, I'll give it two, actually. I'll give it two. The most two recent at the Hollywood Bowl, Club Quarantine, which I don't know if that's considered like a concert, but to even just be, I mean, Cynthia was great, and it was a different vibe than Club Quarantine, despite it being at the same venue. But being at Club Quarantine, just with people, with so many people just grooving and just listening to like new songs, old songs, having artists come out, having people just outside, and knowing that the basis of Club Quarantine happened because we were all in quarantine sitting there doing nothing, and we needed an outlet to be able to feel like we were still turning up. That energy was in the Hollywood Bowl, and I was probably the greatest concert I've ever been to. Yeah, I would say that that's one. I remember my first concert to this day, which was in Tucson. It was Tyga. And I went crazy seeing Tyga. We were at the very front. I think tickets were like $25. College students just buying tickets. We were in the very front. And that was when Tyga had brought out Honey Cocaine and Lil Twist. And it was right after Honey Cocaine had got shot. So she's up there rapping in a sling. And that at the time, of course, was one of my favorites, because I was like, oh my gosh, Tyga, like, that was when all like the old songs were out. But to see the transition of like concerts then, and like enjoying and understanding a concert now, is just, it's something different. But I would say Club Quarantine has to be my ultimate favorite, just because of the energy, the being back outside.
That's really dope and rare, because he was able to capture the same energy he put out online through Instagram Live and push it into an audience, and it to be felt and received in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shout out DJ.
And it was so many different age groups. The Isley Brothers came out, and I had never listened to the Isley Brothers. They started playing these songs, and I was like, I know this. I don't know their version, but I know this version. Or like, you know, having them come out after a Tank, after a Common, after a Trey Songz, after, you know, Erica Campbell for Mary Mary. It was so much that was happening that it was just like, it was almost overwhelming. No one was in their seat. Like, the aisles were filled with people, like they didn't have tickets. It was wow. He's something else. He's absolutely amazing.
Hey, that's right. Everybody make sure you go catch that in person. Now, I gotta let you know you survived my show. As a reward, the floor is yours. Let them know where they can find you. Shout out what you want to shout out. You know, do your thing.
Yes, well, you can find me on every platform at ALEXYZ JOI. That's ALEXYZ JOI. That's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You can follow us on HollywoodUnlocked.com, at Hollywood Unlocked on all platforms. Look out for us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Look at our Instagram stories. And shout out to Hollywood Unlocked for honestly, you know, starting my career. Shout out to Jason Lee for propelling my career and just, you know, being able to mentor me and put me to where I'm at now in my career. And it's only up from here.
See, fun fact, I ran into Jason Lee. I did an interview at, what is the name of that hotel in Beverly Hills? I probably even should have said the name.
The Mondrian?
No, Waldorf Astoria.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm waiting for my car in valet. He hops out of his Jeep in valet. And then I was like, oh shit, there's Jason Lee. And I said, what's up? He said, what's up? But he was trying to get to food to eat. So I could tell he was in a rush. And so I just, you know, let the moment go. But I was like, dang, that's random. And so that was my one Jason Lee moment. And yeah.
He's so kind. He is such a kind soul. I mean, working with him every day has honestly been a blessing. It's different. I'll say that. You know, he pushes us to be the best that we can be. So he is very tough on us because he knows that we have the willingness and the capability to excel at what we're doing. So yeah, he's such a kind person though. And funny fact, before he went into entertainment, he worked with my mom at Kaiser when I was like 11. And I vividly remember them going to a conference in Hollywood and me being at a hotel waiting for my mom to come back. But when I got the job with Hollywood Unlocked and I showed my mom, like, yeah, you know, look, this is who I work for. She was like, I know him. It was like a full circle moment. So I'm like, no, I did not get hired from Hollywood Unlocked because my mom knew him. It just was a coincidence.
You know, another reason why I was like, I got to make this happen and get you on the show is because I recently started working with Doughboy. And it was like a fun fact is that I was a part of Hollywood Unlocked for the first few episodes. He was a part of the pilot episode. And I was like, you know, I feel like that's a sign. I really need to just find somebody that would, you know, take a DM, you know, shout out to Instagram DMs because a lot of my interviews happen that way. And some other stuff happened because of Snoop Dogg. I appreciate you, big dog. But, you know, just it is what it is. And I'm grateful that I was able to capture your story along the lines of being able to tell, you know, what it is like to be a journalist and be just a media personality and take your blessing of an internship to wherever the road will take you. Because what's destined for you, the road's already written. You just got to, you know, write the pages and do the work.
Absolutely. I greatly appreciate this opportunity. This is, I think, actually one of my very first interviews to tell my full journey. So I truly appreciate you for reaching out. And I'm happy we're able to make this happen.
Absolutely. You know, I close out like this. You know, they say over there, I got to do segments. So I did segments. And I'm like, I'm not going to do segments like y'all. So I'm like, how do I keep that same energy and close out? The viewers knows it's coming. I'm going to hit you with it. You got any questions for me?
Where do you see yourself next?
I really love the box, the TV box. I want to push it and, you know, wherever, like, I love producing content. I love being behind. I love to also talk. I have a great sensibility. James Dubose was like, that's your greatest sense is your sensibility when it comes to what you do. You just got to find a way to get everything to click. And that's what I'm, you know, on the path of. I learned more about filming. I learned more about just everything I could possibly learn and just have better quality and, you know, make a stamp at what I do. And so that's where I see myself as progressive and trying to get on the box, you know, trying to work with you, trying to work with everybody that's, you know, that's progressing in this field. Because I learned from Sylvia Horn. I went to the Trumpet Awards 2 years ago, and she had 6 jobs in the industry, in the entertainment industry. And I seen that, and I was like, she has 3 executive jobs, and then she does stuff and also in the entertainment side of like acting, like she's involved in producing films, and it was just like, oh my God, she's able to do all of that. That's a sign. Like, you know, I feel like I can do a lot of things, but they always say you have to do one. And then this whole evolution of, hey, they prefer you to have multiple skills underneath your hat and you deliver at that. And, you know, you get an opportunity to keep on growing in the field. And, you know, that's the whole point.
Yeah. I mean, shout out to, I give big props and much respect to anybody who's building it on their own. Like, I don't know that I would be able to. So shout out to you for this, because I know it's not easy. So this is great. I have so much respect for people who just go out there and get it done.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you. On that note, it's Contrast Uncut. It's season 5. It's episode 33. I got to give a huge shout out to Uncle Snoop's Army and Bobby D Presents. I appreciate you, brothers. I wouldn't be able to do incredibly dope stuff like interview ALEXYZ Joy, and she let her joy shine all the way through. She had gems the size of California, Texas, Hawaii, and the ocean in between to make it all look good. I appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, and just being transparent with the audience. And continued success to you. And shoot, see you on the big screen.
Thank you. You as well. We'll be up there together.
Yes. Blessings.